Hello, Rabbi Friedman.
Hello, hello.
Thank God it's Tuesday.
And Erev Chanukah.
Yes, and Arab Hanukkah. And that's exactly what I told just to our listeners. So this year, for 2163rd time, we're going to be lighting the menorah. And I just brushed up on my history in preparation for this show. And we're faced with exactly the same issues now, 2,163 years later, as we did before. Same situations, same players, same problems. So obviously my question is, what has changed 2,163 years later?
Well, what changed is we know what's happening. The first time it hit us like we didn't know what was happening. Caught us by surprise. There are no more surprises for us. There's so much to Chanukah. It seems like a simple thing. You get a menorah and you put in the candles, you light it. Oh, it's there's so much power, so much meaning. The names have changed. I mean, our situation in the world today is more like Purim than Chanukah, because it's Persia again. It's genocide again, at least in their mind. But the old Greeks and the old Assyrians, they're gone. Hellenism, in principle, is still the same. Assimilation, fascinated with non-Jewish values. Yeah, that's the same. But we're closer to a solution. Not a military solution. A philosophical solution. Because all those secular human inventions have finally failed convincingly, and they're over. Human secularism, it's gone. It's a disaster for everybody. Men, women, children. Everyone has been devastated. So, we're that much closer to the right answer because all the wrong answers have been tried, they've all failed, and they're being laid to rest. One interesting thing I just thought of this year about Chanukah, you add candles every night. One candle the first night, 2 candles the second night. What is the idea behind it? Very simple. You always grow. There should always be growth, always increase in goodness. Okay? That's kind of obvious. But it's supposed to be celebrating a miracle. What is this combination? Good common sense should always grow, and miracles. You can't grow in miracles. A miracle either happens or it doesn't. You can't control it. But when you think about it, miracle means supernatural, above nature. If you look at nature, nothing ever grows. Nature goes in one direction, and that is destruction, decay. Everything in nature leads to decay. Even when you're growing, you know it's temporary. I mean, a very depressing sounding statement in the Gemara. When a baby is born, he starts to die. Not that depressing?
Sure is.
Hey, the miracle of life. nature will put an end to that. Nature leads to decay in everything. In the human being, in the animal, in the vegetable, and even the mineral. Everything grows old, everything decays, everything rusts, everything eats everything. Nature is horrible. It's pretty on the outside, but it is horrible. Because it all goes in one direction, and that is decay. The only exception is the human mind and spirit. Only a human being can move in the opposite direction. So anywhere there's growth, if you're increasing rather than decreasing, if you're creative rather than destructive, it is supernatural. You're going against nature. So adding a candle every night is a miraculous symptom. There's something miraculous, meaning anti-nature or supernatural, in the human being. To make things complicated, that supernatural effect of a human being is an essential part of nature. There's a balance. In order for the world to exist, nature has to lead to decay, and human effort has to lead to growth. Somehow that balances out, and somehow the growth will overcome the decay, and we will have a world of life without the decay. That's what we're working towards. A life where things don't die. Death is only because of eating from the tree of knowledge. So how long can you suffer from a fruit? So, light the menorah and add a candle each night, because that is the antidote to the destructive nature of nature. So, the fact that the Jewish people are still here, we don't decay, like, what's his name wrote? Forget his name. What was his name?
I don't know. What did he write?
The miracle of Jewish existence. How is it that the Jews are still here? And growing. That's supernatural. But it has to become the strongest force within nature. So,
Rabbi Friedman, but how is it that we know everything that we know for over 2,000 years, and we relived it and learned the same lesson, understanding what causes destruction for us, and we know it full well now, and even now when we have all the information available to us, all the history as you have stated, and we're still stepping on the same rake as we have always. We just keep on hitting ourselves over the head over and over and over again. Why aren't we learning the most important lesson that we should have learned so many times by now?
It's a very good question. The rake looks different each time. It fools us. Now, I think a big part of it is the fact that we're such a tiny minority. It is so hard to convince ourselves that we have the answer for the whole world. But we're a little tiny part of the world. How can we be the answer to all? It seems disproportionate. How can we be right and everybody is wrong? How can that be? But when everyone comes to us and says we are wrong, well, then you can't argue. Then we're going to have to step in and say, okay, if you're all wrong, then we will teach you what we know. But it's so intimidating to think, in our great humility, to think we are right and everybody's wrong. Maybe, but it's hard to convince yourself. Now that we have this incredible communication highway, and we know what everyone in the world is thinking and what they're experiencing and what they're going through, now when the whole world loudly says we don't know what we're doing, it becomes a little easier for us to think, okay, so maybe we have the answer. Because they don't. Not I'm saying it, they're saying it. So it's not like I'm trying to preach to the world and convince them that they are wrong, which would be very arrogant. Great chutzpah. But if they're saying it, then to ignore them would be a chutzpah. So the world is desperate for what we have. That's literally true. There's no clearer way to say it. The world is desperate for direction, for purpose, for some justification for our very existence. And they don't have it. They don't have it. So yes, they're desperate. And what they're desperate for, we happen to have. So how can you be so cruel as to withhold it? Out of great humility. So now the message for the Jewish people is, stop being so humble at other people's expense. They need what you have. Share it. Share it. Loudly, confidently, publicly. How could you not? How could you be so cruel? What a shift from 2,000 years ago.
Rabbi Friedman, but realistically, if we are comparing exactly what was and exactly what is, it's like we're so going through it again in every up right now, especially this year with the wars and with the fighting for the right to be different, fighting for the right to defend ourselves. Everything is exactly the way it was. Where do we get the optimism that this time around is the time that we will, first of all, enlighten ourselves before we have a chance to enlighten others? How can we, first of all, come together and cure our dysfunctions so we can be 100% functional for the rest of the world?
There's certainly a possibility of that. And the reason is because back in the olden days, whatever we fought for our survival. And when we survived, we made a holiday. The world hadn't gotten much better. Defeating evil militarily doesn't make the world better. It just delays whatever the evil wants to do for the next time around. But this time, we're not fighting for our survival. Anybody who thinks that is not reading the news correctly. We're fighting for transformation of the world, not for our survival. And the whole world is waiting for that transformation. So it's a whole different set of possibilities. If we can pull this off, we have a much better world in which we don't have to sit and wonder when the next war is going to come. Because there won't be any more wars. That's just the fact that that's possible is already kind of intoxicating.
I agree, but where do we see the signs that this is what the world really wants right now and waiting for? Is there a definite signs that we can see at this point? It feels like it. I don't disagree, but how do we know that this is happening?
Practically every week, something happens to tell us that that's what's happening. Last week, the collapse of Syria. What happened all of a sudden? Who did that? Don't know. 13 years it's been going on. All of a sudden, overnight, finished. It's so amazing. So, the Druze community in Syria asking Israel to take over because they'd rather live under Israeli rule. That's not our survival. That's their survival. So we got to think way, way beyond a ceasefire or even a peace treaty. We now should be thinking of a utopian world. It's suddenly possible, even reasonable. That's very different from how do we get through this problem and prepare for the next problem. No more of that.
Why this time? Why do you think this time it's possible?
Well, first of all, because we're running out of time in the 6,000 years when Mashiach has to be here. And secondly, because the world is telling us. They're at their wits' end. They have run out of ideas. They don't know what to do anymore. And they're expecting us to have an answer. They can hate you for it, but they know you have the answer. So the focus is so sharply directed at the Jewish people, not at Israel. The Jews who happen to be in Israel. But not Israel is the solution. The Jews of Israel are the solution. And the Jews everywhere else as well. So it almost seems like we don't have a choice anymore. The world is saying, you have the answer and you better give us, or we're all going to go down together. Okay, so we'll give you the answer. It's not like, oh, this was prophesied, this was predicted. Yeah, it was predicted. But a lot of things were predicted. If you have to quote the prediction, then you're not seeing it yourself. And you should be seeing it yourself. So predicted or not predicted, this is what's happening. The non-Jewish world is turning to the Jew saying, what is God all about? We don't know. We messed up. We're so confused. So enlighten us. Tell us the way of God, and we will follow. It's exactly what they're saying. Not the politicians, and not the media. The people, the real people that make up this planet, everywhere in the world, are turning to the Jewish authorities or to the Jewish communities where they are, saying, so, you're a light to the nations, we need some light. What are we going to do? Make believe we don't have anything? Play humble?
Rabbi Friedman, it seems like Hanukkah is really also the Jewish pride holiday. This is one holiday we go completely out there and show off who we are, what we're doing, with especially Chabad, with the huge menorahs on the roofs, parades, and everything. I mean, I understand lighting a menorah, bringing the light into the world, but the menorah on the roof doesn't radiate so much light. Why is it important to display menorahs such obviously and such expressively to the rest of the world?
It would be interesting to do some kind of a study to see what an effect these little insignificant lights compared to all the other lights going up at this particular season, what effect it has. Every year there's some vandalism. People knock down menorahs. Why? Why do they even notice them? And why are they threatened by them? There's something very powerful about the menorah. The struggle, the resistance, the attempt to prevent menorahs from going up for so many years. And that's over. But for many years, there was a struggle. Separation, church and state, you can't do this, it's too religious. At the same time that every other religion is in your face, people say, oh, not a menorah, no, that's... Yeah, it's a powerful thing. It looks puny, but it generates a lot of energy. And yes, you're right. It's the only holiday we go public with. There's no emphasis on displaying your Seder table or your Passover to the public. On the contrary, you don't even do it in the synagogue. You do it at home. Every family or families, if you can't do it at home, then you go to the synagogue. But the center of activity is in the home. Sukkah, I mean, you can't hide your sukkah, but it's not on display. But the menorah is supposed to be noticeable to every passerby. Because, it's the miracle that everyone is part of. This ability to grow rather than decay. Which is, it's another way of saying the ability to turn on a light when it's dark. What does that mean? It means the darkness is the default position, and if you want to get rid of it, turn on a light. Can you turn on a light? Will the light overcome the darkness? Yep. It's a little miraculous. True. For some people, it's too good to even believe. With all this darkness, life can actually be good? Hard to believe. And so they succumb to the bad news. And that's terrible. Then gravity has dragged you down. We're not supposed to let that happen. We have to defy gravity.
Rabbi Friedman, I want to ask everybody to go to your YouTube channel. You have amazing Chanukah lectures there that are extremely powerful. And one of the things that really totally penetrated me this year, and for some reason this year is you probably said it before, but this is the year that I hear this message loud and clear. And this is the message about the purity with each one of us that has been try to mess with in this world. We know, especially in the last 4 years, what we've endured, and we saw how the society, the politics, and the outside factors are trying to invade our souls, trying to tarnish our souls, and that there is always a part of us that cannot be tarnished. And Hanukkah, I want people to listen to you, not to me. Hanukkah is a holiday that underlines that. That is the miracle, that there is a part of us that cannot be tarnished, and that is the part that needs to be found. And I think that is the most powerful message that you have, for me, put out this season. And is it true? How can we encourage people to look for that part in themselves, to discover that part in themselves? And how can we make people believe that there is a part of them that cannot be tarnished no matter what, and that it is something that we can discover?
I was talking to a group of teenagers, religious, observant, and they were complaining that much of what they learn is irrelevant. Why do we need to know this? What about our problems? Let's talk about that. So I said, how can you say that what you're learning is irrelevant? Do you know what Chanukah means? I said, let me show you how relevant it is. Your friend comes to you and says that she was molested, or he was molested, and they're devastated. They're in shock. They're horrified. They don't know what to do with themselves. What do you tell them? Sure, go to the police, find the person who did it, kill him, tar and feather him, whatever. And then Chanukah is a global, certainly a national lesson. Chanukah was not a threat to our existence. The Assyrians, the Greeks, the Hellenists didn't want to kill Jews. They just couldn't stand our innocence. They tried to rob our innocence. We were in the Holy Land. We were in the Holy Temple. We were as innocent as we've ever been. Just purely Jewish. And they came and tried to corrupt it. And they did. A lot of Jews became Hellenists. I think it was a Jew who tried to offer a pig on the altar as a sacrifice. Now what do? We throw them out and we rededicate the Beit HaMikdash. So after being molested, can you really get back to the original innocence? Or do you have to accept the fact that you've been damaged, you've been violated, you've been diminished? You'll never quite be perfect again. But, don't give up. Don't. Push forward, be strong, continue living with the damage. See, that was the idea, that they could light the menorah with the oil that was contaminated. They could. The Maccabees said, no, we're not settling for second best. We're not damaged forever. The violation, the abuse can only go skin deep. The The real innocence with which we are born, you can't change. You can't change it. So what we really need to do when we've been molested or our innocence was tampered with, we need to go a little deeper where our innocence is unreachable by contamination. It can't. No one can damage our essential God-given innocence. It can only damage our opinion of ourselves. The opinion of yourself is not your nature. You can change your opinion. So that's how deep the damage can go. It can ruin your opinion. It cannot really take away your innocence. That's Chanukah. The Greeks came into the holiest place in our soul and tried to create some corruption. Well, it didn't work. We found that place in us which cannot be molested, and it can't be damaged, and it can't be diminished, and we use that to light up the entire week, which means your entire life. So, Chanukah is not relevant to problems of today. It's the only good answer, or the best answer. You might think you've been damaged, but that's all the damage that happened. Essentially, you are as innocent as you were born. That is Chanukah.
It's not an easy concept to understand that no deeds or thoughts can damage a person's core.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we say it in other contexts, like, no matter how damaged you are a human being and you deserve the dignity of a human being. Don't we say that? Oh, we should say that. So you can be physically devastated, damaged beyond repair. Are you less human? Of course not. Same is true with your innocence. Innocence is our default position. It's not something we acquired. It's not something we convinced ourselves of. We are born innocent. You can't change Mother Nature. You can distract, you can confuse, you can't change. So all we need to do to not be confused is to recognize that innocence is not something you acquired. And therefore it's not something you can lose. That's what makes Chanukah different from Pesach or from Purim. They're both national miracles. We were saved, we were liberated, we were freed, Yeah. But there's a different thing. Being saved from slavery is very different than surviving genocide. Regaining your innocence is certainly different than not being a slave. So, Chanukah is the celebration of the indestructible innocence of our souls. That is powerful, it's true, and it's so necessary.
Rabbi Friedman, amazing. I think that is something that everybody needs to hear and believe. If we need to believe anything, we need to believe this.
So, the pop psychology that says, oh, this damage goes very deep, you'll never be the same. You know, it will take many, many years to. Why do you do that? Where is that attitude coming from? That's not helpful. That's not a healing art. That's depressing because it's false. We are much stronger than the molestation or the abuse. To say that we are victimized and that we cannot function and we can't get back to normal and we can't be as good as before, who authorizes you to say such things to people? Because you have a license to practice medicine? You can pass such judgment on people? That's not your job. Your job is to marvel at how resilient and how strong people really are. Don't tell people they're doomed. So it goes back to the idea that this is not a religious belief. This is reality. You have to look into Torah to find out what reality is? Yeah, maybe. Because reality can be so confusing. But it's not true, it's not real. We're not that fragile. We're not. We don't need a safe room to protect us from every microaggression. We don't. Telling us that is so wicked. It's so destructive. Chanukah says, they came with a huge army. We had no chance of defeating them militarily, but we did. How? I don't know. And now you're going to tell me that we're vulnerable and we can't afford to experience a microaggression? We fought with our bare hands practically against an army with trained military elephants. But we can't handle a microaggression? Come on. Who are you talking about? Not us.
Rabbi Friedman, this is incredibly encouraging because everyone feels a little damaged at this point. Life was not easy, and I'm not even saying physically, but psychologically, it's been doing a number on people. And this message, I hope, penetrates absolutely everybody's minds and hearts, and gives people real understanding of our abilities, possibilities, and hopefully, as you said, everything will come to fruition right now, and hopefully we'll be able to do what we were meant to do in this world as soon as possible.
It's an interesting. What is the word? When all things come together. We have the new year, the new election, and Chanukah. All at the same time. The possibilities are endless.
Well, hopefully we'll see them at the strike of the first match.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
Happy Chanukah.
thank you so much. Thank you for this incredible opportunity to hear your wisdom and your blessings and your encouragement, which is absolutely a must for all of us these days. Thank you so much. Happy Hanukkah to you, your family, and Chag Sameach. Thank you.
Only good news coming.
Amen. Thank you so much.